Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. We have a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. Two police officers, dressed in blue uniforms, arrived at my garage in a patrol car. I watched them cautiously from under the lift, wiping grease from my hands as I tried to understand their behavior. It seemed unusual to see police officers so cheerful. However, their expressions turned serious as they approached. After confirming my identity, they delivered troubling news. Something had happened to my wife, Kate. She was in the hospital, but they couldn't provide details. I instinctively moved to leave, but they stopped me, asking about my whereabouts over the past 3 hours. I assured them I had been at the garage all day and suggested they confirm with my mechanics, Mike and Pete. Apologetically, I admitted to stepping out for 10 minutes around 11 in the morning to grab coffee for the team. One officer questioned Mike and Pete, while the other noted the name of the coffee shop I had visited. Then he asked to see my truck. Without hesitation, I led him outside. He carefully inspected the vehicle before finally allowing me to leave for the hospital. Arriving at the hospital, my heart pounded as a staff member explained Kate's injuries. Severe blood loss, emergency surgery, and transfusions. My concern deepened when I noticed the doctor's peculiar half-smile as he delivered the grim news. It felt unprofessional, even inappropriate. As I left, the same two officers stopped me again, seeking further answers. We sat in the hospital cafeteria, sipping cups of coffee as they inquired about my marriage. I explained that Kate and I had been married for 8 years. She had worked as a successful attorney, always wanting children but waiting until she was established in her career. A month ago, she had quit her job, intending to take a break before pregnancy, a final stretch of freedom before committing to years of motherhood. Then came a question that caught me off guard. "What can you tell us about John Barton?" I frowned. "I don't know anyone by that name." They exchanged glances but offered no explanation before walking away. Trusting my team to close the garage for the night, I drove home, only to find forensic scientists and a detective examining the house. The detective introduced himself, summarizing what they knew before repeating the same questions the officers had asked, with one addition. "There are a few drops of blood in the downstairs bathroom. Any idea how they got there?" I shook my head. "No idea." Then I fixed him with a steady gaze. "Are you looking at me as a suspect?" He exhaled, offering a vague reassurance. "We have multiple leads. My colleague is currently speaking with Mrs. Barton." The name struck a chord. John Barton. "Who is John Barton?" I asked. The detective hesitated, then apologized. "I can't disclose that." As they left, confusion settled in. I went upstairs to my bedroom, staring at the room like I was seeing it for the first time. That morning, around 10 a.m. while at work, my thoughts had wandered, thoughts of closeness. Nothing unusual. They say men think about intimacy an average of 67 times per waking hour. After nearly a month of distance, I was definitely above that average. Kate's sudden lack of interest had been noticeable. Mood swings, boredom, exhaustion. I assumed it was all part of her transition from work and the weight of impending motherhood. I didn't pressure her. I knew her life was about to change dramatically, and fear was a natural reaction. But that morning I decided to reignite the spark we once had, the spontaneity, the passion. I told Mike and Pete I'd be out for a while and planned to surprise Kate at home. Pete asked if I could test drive a car he had just finished repairing. I agreed, taking it for a quick spin before heading home. All excitement disappeared the moment I saw an unfamiliar car parked in my driveway. Visitor. Frustration surged, but I held on to hope. Maybe it was a friend, and maybe they wouldn't stay long. Entering the house, I called out for Kate. No answer. Then I heard it. A sound no husband should ever hear. My body turned cold. The hair on my arms stood up. The unmistakable sounds of intimacy drifted down from our bedroom. My hand instinctively went to my phone. At the garage, I always recorded videos when customers dropped off their cars, as a precaution against false damage claims. That same habit took over now. Heart pounding, I climbed the stairs, hit record, and gently pushed the door open, just enough to see Kate. A man I didn't recognize. Or bed. A surge of raw, primal rage ran through me. But I forced myself to turn away. I could have ended that man's life in a second. Instead, I collapsed against the hallway wall, breathless, broken. They were completely unaware of my presence, lost in what they were doing. I didn't know how long I sat there, frozen in betrayal. Eventually, the sounds faded, replaced by whispered voices. Somehow that hurt even more. I needed time. I needed space to think. Quietly, I walked downstairs and sank into the sofa. Far from the sights, the smells, the painful echoes of disloyalty. Despite the ache, my mind stayed sharp. Plan began to form. Step 1, get him out. Step 2, confront her. No violence. No evidence. Just swift, clear humiliation. I had the perfect tool. 2 years ago, while serving in the Army Reserve National Guard, I had been tasked with clearing out military vehicles. That's when I found a stun grenade, a non-lethal device designed for hostage rescues. A blinding flash rated at 8 million candles. A deafening blast at 170 decibels. It could temporarily disorient anyone nearby. I retrieved it from my workshop, made a quick adjustment by attaching a rope loop, and headed back to the bedroom. This time I didn't bother being quiet. The moans still echoed behind the door. My hand tightened around the grenade. I stepped inside and tied the rope loop to the light fixture, letting the device hang halfway to the floor. I pulled the pin, tucked it into my pocket, and stepped back. Covering my ears and squeezing my eyes shut, I braced for impact. Even through closed eyelids, the explosion was blinding. The shockwave trembled through the house. As planned, I re-entered the room, ready to carry out my revenge. But the sight stopped me cold. The man lay on his back, completely still. Something was wrong. Below his waist. Something was missing. Kate was on the floor, her eyes vacant, lips trembling as if she was gasping for air. Confusion overwhelmed me. This wasn't the outcome I had expected. Staggering into the hallway, I tried to make sense of it. Whatever had happened in that room, it was far worse than I had imagined. Suddenly, 2 horrifying screams erupted from the bedroom, followed by loud bangs and the slamming of doors. It hit me, I was in serious trouble. My plan had failed badly. Peeking back into the room, I saw the man tumble out of bed, clutching his groin and howling in pain. Kate was gone, probably in the bathroom. I needed to remove any evidence. I rushed into the room, scanning for anything that could incriminate me. Finding the detonator, I quickly secured it to the rope. Everything else appeared destroyed. Taking a deep breath, I cautiously approached the bathroom. Kate was on her knees, vomiting into the toilet. Felt nothing. No sympathy. No concern. I just didn't care anymore. On my way to the door, something caught my eye. I bent down and picked up a small, soft, warm piece of flesh, a severed tip of a tongue. Without hesitation, I walked to the downstairs toilet and flushed it. There was no way they'd be able to reattach that. Moving as quietly as possible, I slipped out into the night. The distance between our house and the neighbors worked in my favor. Halfway to the garage, I emptied my pockets into a roadside trash bin. 10 minutes later, I was back at my small work garage. Breathing heavily, my mind racing. I called Pete and Mike, my oil-stained, trustworthy employees and friends. They arrived quickly, alarmed by my tone. Before they could ask anything, I told them I needed them to vouch for me, for the last 45 minutes. They immediately said, "Of course, boss." But I held up a hand. "Wait, before you agree so quickly, hear me out." I warned them. What I had done was serious. Once they knew, they might not want to be involved. I said I wasn't even sure what charges I could face. Possibly jail time. Then, I changed into my old overalls, rubbed an oily rag over my hands and face, preparing for the inevitable police visit. And then I told them everything. Mike was the first to lose it. He tried to hold it in for about 15 seconds before bursting into laughter. That set Pete off. Soon, all 3 of us were laughing uncontrollably. Took 5 full minutes to calm down. With firm handshakes and promises of support, they returned to work. Over the next hour, spontaneous laughter echoed through the dim, oil-scented rooms of the garage. Kate was finally facing the consequences she deserved. That evening, I returned home and cleaned the master bedroom. I scrubbed the bathroom floor. The bedding had to go. I made a mental note to buy a new rug. The torn curtains needed replacing too. I kept busy to avoid thinking, but the constant phone calls and knocks at the door made that impossible. The media frenzy was intense. A story involving infidelity and a man losing his manhood. It was the perfect scandal. I answered the door once, then turned off my phone completely. Finally, with no distractions, I sat down and let myself reflect. Did I regret what I did? Strangely, no. I've always despised cheaters. I've seen how betrayal changes people, turns them into someone unrecognizable. But the real shock was Kate. I had believed she was as loyal to me as I was to her. Our physical connection had always been amazing, until recently. Hours of restless thinking brought back one odd memory. 2 months ago, Kate said she was retiring to enjoy her last days of freedom. That comment had unsettled me. I had assumed she'd work at least into her 7th month of pregnancy. Something about her one last celebration before kids never felt right. Then my personal cell phone rang. Not many people had that number. The caller ID said it was Kate's parents. They lived 3 hours away. Answered. We had always gotten along well. Her mother didn't waste time. Do you know why journalists are surrounding our house? She asked. We figured we'd find out eventually, but... She hesitated, struggling to speak. Did you watch the news? They're talking about a cheater who bit off her lover's dignity. He sighed. Yes, Mom. There's no easy way to say this. The woman is Kate. A scream burst through the phone, followed by a beep. The call had ended. I stared at my phone, realizing something important. Earlier that morning, I had left my phone recording outside the bedroom door. The pain was still fresh. But I knew. If I never understood Kate's reasons, I might never trust another woman again. There was a real chance I'd die a bitter, lonely man. Desperate for answers, I hit play on the recording. I already knew what the recording contained. The pain of that moment was still too vivid to relive. I closed my eyes, letting only the voices reach me. The camera, left on the floor, had captured nothing but the ceiling. Kate, this past week has been amazing. Does it really have to end today? My offer still stands. Just say the word, and I'll divorce Sarah and marry you. There was a pause. Then Kate's voice, soft but clear. No, it wouldn't work. What kind of start is that? A marriage with a guy who left his wife and kids. I love Dave too much to hurt him like that. Really? You love him that much? Because he's not the one lying next to you right now. Silence again. You're wrong. I love him completely. The moment I met him, I knew he was my soulmate. I want nothing more than to die in his arms, surrounded by our grandchildren. Scoff. Then why are you here with me now? Another long pause. Finally, Kate admitted. I just missed the past. I was a bit wild before I met Dave. I miss walking into a bar and feeling wanted. The thrill of leading a guy on and then deciding if he gets what he wants or not. She continued. Lately, Dave's been deer hunting every other weekend. 3 weekends ago, I decided to check out a bar, just for old time's sake. One night turned into 2. Then last Saturday I ran into you. And here we are. I turned off the sound. The problem hadn't been me. I'd been a good husband, a good lover. She was just cold. The next few days were steeped in quiet disappointment. 2 days later, the reporters finally left my street. The hospital administrator called, saying Kate needed pajamas. I ignored the request. She could live with the humiliation of hospital gowns. 2 more days passed. Her father called. He apologized for her behavior and asked if I'd stay in touch with the family. Then, as if to soften the blow, he reminded me that he had another daughter, recently divorced. Hurry, Dad. Meanwhile, he was back in the news. Mr. Not So Big Deal had been released from the hospital. But that wasn't the real headline. The journalists had done their work. They dug up enough dirt to expose him as a serial cheater. The cherry on top? Though surgeons had managed to reattach his manhood, the general consensus was that it likely wouldn't ever function the way it used to. Poetic justice. By the end of that week, I had an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Barton, or Sarah, as she insisted I call her. She was a pretty woman with sad eyes. She said she'd heard rumors that I might have evidence that could help with her divorce case. I neither confirmed nor denied. I simply explained that sharing anything would mean exposing myself too. She understood, apologizing for even bringing it up. I reassured her. There was already enough circumstantial evidence to help her win. But if things got complicated, she was welcome to come back. And maybe, just maybe, I'd reconsider. Something about her sadness struck a chord in me. I felt sorry for her. So I pulled up a video file, only the aftermath. The moment her husband's agonized screams filled the air, she flinched. But she quickly composed herself. Let's just say, by the time she left, sadness was no longer the dominant emotion on her face. And because I'm such a helpful guy, I told her she could always come back. If she ever needed a pick-me-up. That wouldn't be the last time I saw Sarah Barton. But the strangest visitor arrived that Saturday. When I opened the door, I found the detective standing on my porch. It was the same detective I'd spoken to at the house that day. Gone was the suit. Now he wore just jeans and a shirt. Hey son. No, I won't come in. Just wanted to let you know. Since there's insufficient evidence, I've recommended closing the case. Thanked him. But as he turned to leave, he hesitated. Glancing back at me, he added, "Listen, I'm retiring at the end of the year. If I come back after that, will you tell me how you did it?" I just smiled and wished him a good day. Kate's letter arrived the following Tuesday. My dear Dave, I can't express how ashamed and sorry I am for what I did to you. I understand perfectly why you haven't visited me, and I forgive you unconditionally. I never truly considered the full consequences of my actions. I certainly never imagined my parents would actually disown me. I know I've lost your love, your trust, and your respect. Forever. That truth hurts more than I can describe. I will understand if you never want to speak to me again. But if it helps your healing, I would like to explain why I did what I did. Just know it was all my fault. The doctors say I won't be able to speak normally for a long time. Maybe ever. Apparently, when I bit down, I swallowed part of my tongue. They're considering some experimental stretching technique to restore function. I hope it works. At the very least, I need something, anything, to distract me from the dull, loveless, childless future I now face. Take whatever you want in the divorce. I'll sign anything. Just, if you could keep me on your health insurance a little while longer, I would be forever grateful. Farewell, my love. I wish you nothing but happiness. I hope I haven't completely ruined your life. Your cheating wife. The letter was so touching that I immediately reversed my previous decision and sent her a pair of pajamas to the hospital. Now, where the hell are Mick and Pete's numbers? Do I owe them a beer? Or a whole damn keg? Dear listeners, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.